The village of Fałków is today home to around 1,000 people and is located almost equidistant between the cities of Radomsko and Skarzysko Kamienna. On the 6th of September 1939, the Luftwaffe bombed the town, causing considerable death and damage. One of the victims of this attack was 14-year-old Waleryjan Wrobel, who found himself with his family's home destroyed. In this video, I shall tell you the story of his life and execution at the hands of the National Socialist judicial machinery. Walerjan Wróbel was born the 2nd of April 1925. His parents were farmers and their children would be expected to follow them in the same profession. His mental age was probably younger than his real age, although, as can be seen, his writing and drawing skills were very good. There was a major shortage of agricultural labourers in the Third Reich owing to farmhands being recruited into the armed services. As a result, there was a major recruitment campaign in Poland and other countries to make up the shortfall. When this failed to get enough volunteers, force was used. At the age of 15, Walerjan Wróbel was picked up by the German occupation police and then supposedly of his own free will volunteered for a labour assignment on a farm in Germany. On the 19th of April 1941, Walerjan was sent to work as a farm labourer in Bergelsum to the northwest of Bremen. Conditions for forced labourers very much depended on the farmers. Sometimes the German farmers treated their labourers well, but not so in the case of Walerjan. He had to do hard work, he suffered from ill treatment, and he was very lonely. He could not speak German at all. Above all, he suffered from homesickness. So on the 26th of April 1941, after only 1 week at Lessum, he set out by foot on the 900-kilometre journey back home. He was soon picked up by the police, cautioned that he was not allowed to just walk home any time he wanted, and he was returned to his place of work. There, the idea occurred to him that he could set fire to a barn. He thought that if he did this, then he would be punished, and this punishment would involve being returned to Poland. I think we can agree that this is not very logical thinking, even for a 16-year-old. If anything, it shows how much his mental age was different from his real age. On the 29th of April 1941, he set fire to the hay in a barn. The fire was quickly discovered before it could cause any damage. Walerjan also helped put the fire out. As a result, he was arrested on the 2nd of May 1941 and interrogated by the Gestapo. On the 28th of June 1941, he was incarcerated in the Neuengamme concentration camp. He was there assigned to the Elbe Commando, which was tasked with the construction of a 600-metre canal linking the concentration camp with the branch of the Elbe River. Prisoners had to work a 12-hour shift in very difficult circumstances. Some prisoners died of exhaustion, disease, and abuse. Another prisoner, Michał Piotrowski, who was 2 years older, remembered that Walerjan was very young and very naive. He had no experience of life. He believed everything he was told. It was very difficult for such people in a concentration camp. Such people had a very hard time in the camp. There, one had to be brutal and not naive. He constantly talked of his parents, sisters, and school. Walerjan spent 10 months on the Elbe Commando. On the 8th of April 1942, he was taken to Bremen to stand trial. He was charged by the special court in Bremen under the decree aimed at enemies of the people, together with the criminal justice provisions against Poles. Now, to go off on a legal tangent, these two laws would differ different types of people. The enemies of the people decree related to Germans who, according to the Nazi mindset, betrayed their own kind. This law was not for foreign races. In accordance with this decree, a serious act of arson was defined as setting a house on fire which was inhabited by people, and it carried the death sentence, but only if it harmed the resilience of the German people to resist its enemies. Walerjan was not a German citizen, but a Pole, and he attempted to burn down a barn, not a house, so he was guilty only of simple arson. However, because he assumed that he would be deported, the judge concluded that he had assumed that the house would burn down as well. Had he actually wanted to burn the house down, he would have been guilty of attempting a serious act of arson. But since the barn was so far away from the house, it was unlikely to catch fire. Therefore, his act of arson would have been further defined as an ineffectual attempt. However, in his sentence, it was simply stated that Wróbel had deliberately attempted to burn down a building that served as a place where people lived. In a judgment rendered on the 8th of July 1942, Walerjan was sentenced to death. Although the anti-Polish criminal justice provision was not yet in effect at the time of the crime, and it was not endowed with retroactive force, according to the judge, the sentence did not stand in conflict with the law in this case. Finally, the law concerning charges brought up against minors forbade imposing the death sentence against youths, and Wróbel had just turned 16 in April 1941 when the crime was committed. According to the judgment, the defendant might in fact be a minor according to the law, but since he is Polish, this law is not in effect. The law concerning charges brought against minors was created with Germans in mind, with the intention of reforming them through education so as to transform them into decent members of society. On the 9th of July 1942, he drew this picture of a horse with a farewell note to his parents and sisters. This was smuggled out of the prison and found its way to Poland. Despite the judgment and the fact that no appeal was permitted, the court itself took a stand on the application of the pardon. Due to the fact that Walerjan was only 16 years old at the time of the crime and still gave a youthful impression, and that he did not belong to any secret organization and had committed the crime out of homesickness, the judges were in favor of replacing the death penalty with imprisonment. Moreover, there was no indication that the crime had been committed with the intention of undermining the country's defenses. On the 20th of July 1942, Walerjan's publicly appointed defender filed a plea for clemency, pointing to mental and physical defects, as well as his lack of knowledge of the German language, and the fact that the crime had virtually no consequences. The defender argued that Wróbel certainly did not consider weakening the defense power of the German nation, which was assumed by the special court. At the same time, the defense power of the nation was not damaged or weakened in any way. A day later, on the 21st of July 1942, the district prosecutor, as the head of the prosecution unit at the special court, also recommended to Franz Schlegelberger, acting Reich Minister of Justice, to change the death penalty to a long-term stay in a high-security penal camp. He pointed out that the trial gave no grounds for supposing that Wróbel had acted for anti-German motives or as a member of some underground Polish organization. Besides, he convincingly explained his motives. The district attorney's letter ended with the following words: "The undersigned is aware that sentences opposing the death penalty on Poles, as a rule, must be carried out without consideration for anything. But, on the other hand, he considers the execution of the death sentence on an underage boy to be unacceptable. It is also necessary to take into account the motive, not resulting from anti-German attitudes, and the fact that the damage caused was minor." Unfortunately, this request ended up on the desk of Roland Freisler, then Secretary of State at the Ministry of Justice, and later to become known for being the judge at the People's Court. He turned down the request on the 15th of August 1942. Walerjan Wróbel was guillotined in Hamburg on the 25th of August 1942 at 06:15. Immediately afterwards, at least 250 posters informing the public of the execution were posted around Bremen. This served as intimidation to anyone considering any resistance to the National Socialist regime. In the mid-1980s, at the request of lawyer Heinrich Hannover, the trial was restarted. At the request of Walerjan Wróbel's sister and the public prosecutor's office in Bremen, the district court in Bremen annulled the sentence on the 26th of November 1987. The fate of Walerjan Wróbel was portrayed in a feature film entitled Das Heimweh des Walerjan Wróbel, The Homesickness of Walerjan Wróbel. It was written and directed by Rolf Schubel. This 95-minute film won an award at the Dutch Youth Film Festival in 1991 and was nominated for the German Film Award. It was also shown at screenings at the 16th Polish Film Festival in Gdynia in 1991. It was shown in German cinemas in 1992, and the German ZDF television showed it for the first time in 1993. On the 29th of August 2007, shortly after the 65th anniversary of the execution of Walerjan Wróbel, part of the Elbe embankment in Lessem was named Walerjan Wróbel Weg. I hope you found that interesting. I upload every Friday at 2000 hours Central European time, and my specialist area is in the Second World War, the Nazi regime, and in particular the Holocaust. I upload videos from Poland and Germany, and so if you're interested, then you might want to subscribe.